Hi, everyone, and welcome. This is Rosemary Levesque with Second Nature Healing, inviting you to the Healer's Journey. I believe this is webinar number 23. We're talking tonight about health crisis and healing crisis. And before we get started, I wanted to mention a couple of things. One is we are focusing on animals and working with animals as healers on our healer's journey, but pretty much everything I do can be applied to humans. And I say that in the sense that the terminology, the working with your vet or working with your doctor, so you can see ways in which you can apply what you're learning here tonight or what we talk about here tonight into working with yourself or working with other people. I just love how animals can be our teachers, and I'm a great example of that. I learn a lot from animals, and it is because of their willing participation in being my teachers that I am able to do this work. So let's go on. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention is health crisis, healing crisis. These are two very different things, and it's a very complex topic. Of course, we're only going to be spending about a half an hour talking about this, and I encourage you to ask questions, and I may not know the answers. So we're all on this journey together, and let's go ahead and get started. So that's me. I'm Rosemary. This is my dog, Gracie. I introduce her every time because she is one of my teachers. And I am the author of Heal Together, Natural Health Solutions for Animals and Their Humans. And this is a book I published in September of 2015. So I have another book coming out, I'm hoping, by September 2017. 2 years should be long enough, right? Last week, we talked about how animals express their pain, injury, disease, and trauma. And these, of course, are very deep subjects. We only touched upon the surface. We talked about the signs, the warning signs that something may be off, that perhaps there's a change in behavior, or perhaps there's stinky fur or stinky breath. Perhaps there's limping or signs of injury. And all of these signs are really important because animals are very good at hiding what is wrong. It's instinctive for them to do that. And so we have to be very keen observers for our animals to know when they are trying to disguise their pain or hiding that they have a serious illness. We want to pay attention to those things. Now, today we're going to go a little bit deeper into the nature of being unwell. And I put on here kind of all over the place some of the things that might show up as being unwell. And obesity, by the way, even though we are talking about animals, there are many animals who are overweight. They are obese. Animals get cancer. They have parasites and allergies. Of course, digestive upsets, arthritis, infections, and even organ failure. Heart failure, kidney failure, depending upon diet and stress and so many other things, toxicity. So the nature of being unwell, let's just talk about that now that we've identified what a little bit about, we're only, again, on the surface here, a little bit about what unwell is and how we identify being unwell. We can say that the nature of being unwell can be either chronic or acute. Let's talk just about that one for a minute here. A chronic disease can be something that is expressed over a long period of time. For example, obesity. An animal just doesn't suddenly become obese, right? They get there gradually. An animal just doesn't suddenly get cancer or suddenly have organ failure. It depends. Might be toxicity with organ failure. So the idea of a chronic disease, it doesn't happen overnight usually. And for acute nature of being unwell, we don't see that as often, but it does come in the form of injuries, of course, and exposure to toxicity. For example, some fertilizers, pesticides, too many vaccinations, flea treatments can cause an acute effect that shows up as symptoms of neurological problems, rashes, allergies, and things like that. So the nature of being unwell can be chronic or acute. It can be widespread or local, and this has a dual meaning here. When I say widespread, at first I was thinking, oh, is it just in your neighborhood, or is it all over the United States, or is it all over the world? That can be a widespread problem. And in fact, we do find that these natures of being unwell are widespread. They are all over the United States, at least, because we're seeing a very popular demand for veterinary medicine. People need their vets, right? Because dogs get sick all the time. Dogs and cats, birds, everybody, or local. And I have found on my street alone, just analyzing based on who I know and who I talk to, at least 7 dogs that I know of who have had hemangiosarcoma, and all but one of them died from it. Mine did not. So widespread and local according to your area, but also within the body. Is the disease all over inside the body, or is it localized? Now, this can be hard to determine, especially in the case of something like cancer, because we know that cancer can start in one place and it can spread to another place. So it may show up in one place and it didn't even start in that place. It might be showing up as digestive upset, but it didn't start there. So we want to be aware of all of the signs, all of the symptoms of what that nature of being unwell is. Also, we know that being unwell is very personal and very emotional. We take it to heart when our animals are sick. I know I take it to heart when anybody calls me with their animal being sick. It's very personal to me, and it is very emotional. People cry on the phone. I have cried on the phone with people, and it's not a good emotion in this case. It is oh, things are dire. I feel for you. I feel empathic about what you are going through when your animal is sick. And so I take it very personally that, I can stomp my foot all I want and I'm still not going to get anywhere when, the whole neighborhood is putting down pesticides for Japanese beetle and I can't walk my dog there. And somebody says it's safe for pets. And I'm going, no, probably not. Not based on what I see. And so I do take it personally. I am emotional about it. And yet I'm able to, as a healer on the healer's journey, I have learned some things about taking things personally and being emotional or separating myself from emotions. Again, as I said, this is a very complex topic because there are so many avenues to explore. So I'm just going to mention them now, and I'm happy to answer questions as we go along. Now, there are symptoms that indicate health challenges. We talked a little bit about these before. However, I want to make a note here that symptoms of health challenges can be accepted as normal. Signs of aging, for example, arthritis, weight gain, low energy, infections, failure, failure to thrive, those things, stinky, all of that. Many people accept those as normal. Oh, he's just a dog. That's normal for him to smell like a dog. No, if a dog smells like a dog, that's not normal. A dog should smell fresh and clean. Bury your face in their fur and take a deep breath and go, ah, I love you, and you smell great. That's normal. So if a health challenge is accepted as normal, there's something to think about, I'll just say. Now, another situation I've come across quite a bit among people as well as animals is that these health challenges are managed with medications or prescription diets. Now, what does that mean? Oh, my dog has arthritis, and for the pain, we are managing with medications. Or my dog has a sensitive stomach and is allergic to chicken, and so we buy our prescription diet from the vet. Do you see where we're going with this? That health challenges feel like they can be managed with medications or prescription diets, and health challenges can be overlooked or hidden until it becomes obvious. Now, as I said before, animals are very good at hiding what is going on with them. They will hide a limp. They will hide that they don't feel good. In fact, they will hide themselves. They'll go behind the chair or the couch and stay out of everybody's way because they're sleeping. And this is not normal. It is not good. And there is something going on. Or a health challenge may be overlooked until it becomes obvious. This is very true for cancer especially, that is often growing for a long time, months, maybe years, before it shows up as a lump or a limp or a rupture or a lesion. Now, what is a health crisis? A health crisis is obvious. You're in the middle of it. You see it. You're very aware of it. Usually it is intense. There's intense difficulty with it, physically and emotionally difficult. It is a state of being unwell. I consider obesity a health crisis. I consider allergies a health crisis. See, it's obvious. It can be difficult, and it is a state of being unwell. And a health crisis shows a decline in health. They don't get better, they get worse. The obese dog is obese and doesn't seem to be losing any weight, or the allergy, the rashes are always there, and they're worse, and you're trying to manage them with ointments or allergy shots or diet, and it's still there. So there is also a decline in health when there is a health crisis. Now, what is a healing crisis? This is really, like I said, a very complex topic, and there's much written on it. And I feel a little bit differently now than I used to feel about it, and I also have different insight than what you might find written in some books. But let's skim it a little bit. It's obvious. The healing crisis is obvious. We said that about a health crisis too, right? A healing crisis is intense, difficult, physically and emotionally. We said that about a health crisis too, right? It is a state of being unwell. And it involves all systems of the body. Because what is the body trying to do in a healing crisis? The body is trying to heal. The body is trying to get better. And sometimes getting better looks as bad as the disease itself or any disease. It's a very serious situation. Now, let's talk a little bit about the comparison, health crisis or healing crisis. It's really hard to tell the difference. If a person is, no, we're talking about animals. If an animal is in a health crisis, let's just say they have cancer. That's a very difficult health crisis. And they are in the process of healing from their cancer, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between if they were dying or if they were healing. That's one thing about this. You can't really tell the difference. The intensity of the symptoms can be just as bad between a health crisis or a healing crisis. The expression of symptoms can be horrifying in either case, health crisis or healing crisis. For example, if there is a lesion on the skin and it's getting worse, it can look like it's oozing and opening up and stuff is coming out. And if it's a healing lesion, it could be opening up and stuff could be coming out, because the skin is a great place for the body to get rid of stuff. Same for the digestive system, either vomiting or diarrhea. The body will get rid of stuff as best it can, any way it can, and it could be because the animal is in a health crisis, or it could be that the body is getting rid of stuff and it's a healing crisis. Do you see where I'm going with this? The expression of symptoms can be the same. The immune response can be the same. There can be fever. If you look at the blood count, there can be a lot of white blood cells. The army is out there fighting whether you are in a health crisis or a healing crisis. So you don't know, if you're looking at the blood, if the animal is dying from symptoms or working at recovering. You can't tell. But there's always a turning point when you're in a health crisis or a healing crisis. And the turning point for a health crisis is continued failure, continued downward trend, worse energy, worse blood work, worse, just organ failure, just declining. And for the healing crisis, it can also look worse for a while, but eventually there will be a turning point when there isn't a decline, but there is evidence of getting better. It can look like more energy or better appetite. It can look like willingness to play with a ball or go for a walk. Because animals, if they can, they will. They do. Let's talk about the turning point just for a minute. There are important changes that happen at the turning point. Now, it can be that whatever was inside is coming out, and I mentioned that earlier. It can be whether it's lesions or allergies or something growing in the lungs or something growing in the intestines, and then the body is getting rid of it. That's an important change. It can be a change in temperature. The fever breaks, or the appetite changes. So there's always something happening at the turning point. There are signs indicating improvement or decline. The duration of the turning point does not have to be fast. It doesn't have to be a moment. It can be days. It can be weeks. It can be months that define a turning point, because the body is very good at healing. It will do what it needs to do in order to heal, and we don't know how long that takes. It's individual. Working with your vet is one of the most important things, because we as healers on our healer's journey rely on technology to some extent for information. So I encourage everybody to work with their vet. They're good for blood tests and other diagnostics, x-rays, ultrasound. I remember when we first got Gracie, her second major surgery that she had was because she had a block in her intestines. She couldn't eat and she couldn't keep anything down. There was something terribly wrong from before we got her that was finally showing up. And an ultrasound showed the vet where he needed to go in and take out that blockage, which was a corn cob. She had gotten a hold of a corn cob, that poor dear. And so the ultrasound allowed the vet to know exactly where to operate, rather than just opening her up and, saying, okay, was it here? Is it here? And, not using technology. We like technology. We want to have the information. We want to be able to talk to the vet. We want to be able to have consultations, get information, hear answers to questions. And we also want to know what our options are. We want to know if it makes sense to have surgery, or if it makes sense to do further exploration or biopsies or to have more tests. We want to know if that makes sense. Now, when Gracie tore a ligament in her knee, she did have x-rays. She did get those diagnostics. We did consult with our vet, and we were given the options from a veterinary point of view. And the veterinary point of view for dealing with a torn ligament in the knee was surgery. And of course, I'm not in favor of surgery unless it's absolutely necessary, like the corn cob thing was necessary. We had to do that. But the knee ligament being torn, we didn't have to do that. Gracie has been walking without her brace for a long time now, and she seems to be pretty well healed, pretty well recovered. There's no limp, and she had no surgery. So it's nice to know what your options are, and in order to make decisions, you need to have the background. You need to do some research and get yourself educated. Sometimes that has to happen overnight. Now, working as a healer, we can support health on all levels, physical, emotional, and spiritual. Now, what that means is when, just for example, when Gracie tore the ligament in her knee, we wanted to make sure that she was going to heal as well as possible. And eventually, I became aware of a brace. And having a brace was the real game changer for her, because Reiki was working great, essential oils were working great, tuning forks were working great. All of those things were working really well, and she was healing, but she re-injured herself when she slipped on the ice. So having a brace hold that delicate tissue in position so that she could become stronger and allow for none of that sideways movement and allow for the tissue to heal itself was supporting her health on her physical level, my emotional level, and everybody's spiritual level, because we knew we were going in the right direction. We could see the improvement immediately when we supplied her with what she needed in order to heal. We also want to make choices that are in alignment to good. Now, what does that mean? If a dog is going through cancer and there's a cancer diagnosis, one of the options that will be provided by an oncologist may be surgery, it may be chemotherapy, there may be radiation offered as well. And that's pretty much the standard offered by the medical community: surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation. Very little is talked about in regards to helping the body heal excuse me, by doing everything in alignment to what is good for the body. Okay, let's talk about that. What is good for the body? Food, specific food, wholesome, raw food is good. Okay, well, let's do that then, because that's in alignment with good. The chemotherapy, I have always felt, feels, well, we know it's poison, right? We know it's toxic. It's terribly toxic. When I was volunteering over at the Providence Cancer Center, offering Reiki to people who were hooked up to chemo bags, they didn't want us taking off any shoes. Why not? No shoes off. Because if some of that chemical leaked and dropped onto our skin, that was a problem, because it's a poison. It's toxic. We don't want to get it on ourselves, right? And so it feels like something like that might not be in alignment to good. It's coming at the problem from a different point of view. What else might be good? Water? Sleep? Aromatherapy, perhaps? Supplements? Detoxification? Are all of those good? Yeah, those are all alignment to good. So we do all of those things. It's part of the basic formula I like to use when I'm working with my clients and working as a healer. Also, being consistent and persistent. We just don't do it for a day, a week, or a month. We keep on doing it, because what is good is good. And so if we're changing the diet to be raw food or even home-cooked meals, if you feel like you must cook, then do that. Always do that. And do it for all of your animals. Don't just do it for now or for this one animal. Do it all the time. Be consistent. Be persistent. If you start on a detoxification program, do it every day. Do it all the time. Always do it. Do it for all the animals and do it for everybody in the house. Keep on doing all of the good things in a consistent and persistent way. Now, working with your tools. What are your tools as a healer? We've spent some time on other previous webinars talking about the tools of a healer. Some of your biggest tools that we haven't talked about are awareness and intuition. You know your animals better than anybody, better than the vet, better than anybody who's trained to see their animals. You know, and your awareness is so important. So this is a tool. You want to be aware of what's going on. When is your animal sleeping? When is your animal wanting to exercise or eat? Use your intuition to detect how they may be feeling. If you're trained in Reiki, you may want to also scan, use biosyn scanning, and meditate, tap into your intuition on a deeper level. Of course, another tool, and at the top of my list, we want to remove and release. We want to cleanse. Get everything out of the environment that doesn't belong there. Don't use any chemicals in your home. Clean things with non-toxic cleaners, maybe just a little vinegar and some, what I like is the Thieves soap that comes from Young Living. I like that one because it's non-toxic and you can use just the tiniest little bit. Or just water. Clean with water. That's a good way to do it too. Don't use any scented candles in your home. Make sure you wash your dog's feet when you come in from a walk to get off the Roundup that your neighbors sprayed, or the pesticides or fertilizers that your animal is walking through barefoot. And with all of those things that you're removing, make sure that you are doing an internal cleanse as well. I can talk to you about that more specifically with a product that I like to use that is my #1 product for all of my clients. Another tool that we work with as healers is vibration. And this goes back to the previous slide with alignment to good, doing all that is good. There are vibrations that will increase an animal's energy, increase their vibration, and then there are ones that will decrease it. The ones that increase the vibration, and we like vibration. Vibration is good. We want to make sure our vibration is up. And what will do that? Good food, raw food, good thoughts, hugs, petting, Reiki. All of those provide good vibration. Also, aromatherapy with pure therapeutic essential oils, not the ones that you get in the store that might be adulterated, but you want to be very careful, especially when working with animals in a health crisis. You have to be very careful, very specific on what you are using and not using. Intention. We teach in our classes, in our Reiki classes, that intention is your most powerful tool. I would add to that visualization or feeling, emotionally feeling with your intention that there is wellness. I tell people when I'm on the phone with them talking about their dog who has cancer, I remind them that there are way more healthy cells in their dog's body than there are sick cells. Why is it that everybody is focusing on the sick cells? The body knows how to heal. So we want to support the healthy cells in the best possible way with our awareness and intuition, removing and releasing, cleansing, adding to the vibration, increasing it, in fact, and adding our positive intentions to support the healthy cells. When healthy cells are working, they know what to do. It is the cancer cells who have forgotten who they are. They're the wayward cells, and we can help the body remember what it's supposed to do, how to work, how to get rid of the things that don't belong and bring in new health and vitality. Our next steps. When we are working with animals, it is always the animal's choice. And this is something we talked about very early on in the healer's journey. We talked about how we're not out there to fix anything. We're not going to go out and change and make people do things and make our animals get better. We're not going to do that. What we're going to do is be the guiding light. We will be here. We will be supportive. We will offer. And we will not force. We will be who we are. And in doing so, we have to honor and understand that it is always the animal's choice on whether they can be here and they are willing to be here. Years ago, now this story sticks with me, I don't know why, but years ago there was a client I was working with in another state, and they had a dog with hemangiosarcoma. This is the same cancer that my dog Ginger had. And these two women, they were, of course, it's a terrible cancer. Oh my God, they're all terrible cancers, but this one especially because it's so fast. You don't have any time. Some people have no time. Their dog just kills over and dies, and that's it. It looks like a heart attack when there's actual internal bleeding. It's a blood cancer. Anyway, we were talking. They wanted to know if their dog should have surgery. They wanted to know, they wanted a sign. And I said, you just have to talk to your dog about this. This is something you have to decide. So they were looking for a sign. And next thing I know, I got an email explaining, or contact, I think it was an email, explaining that they had a talk with their dog, and she responded in a way that they understood it to mean that she was willing to go through the surgery. And so I said, now, you've got to be very careful with this. You have to trust your vet. You want to make sure that if you're using any products, you're going to just kind of back off of that before surgery and make sure that she gets a lot after surgery. And they trusted their vet. They were good with things, and the dog had surgery. She woke up from surgery. She sat up. The gals got the phone call that the dog was awake, and then she laid down and died. And that one just broke my heart, because we don't know why animals will sometimes choose to be here or choose to leave. And it felt to me that there was, I did communicate with the dog. I did get some insight into this. I communicated with her early in the day, the day before, and she showed me that she was in a whirlwind. It felt like chaos all around her. Things were very uncomfortable for her and confusing. There was a lot of emotional turmoil. And then later on I went to a yoga class where I did some meditation, and then I saw her point of view where she was looking down on the situation. It felt like she removed herself from the situation. At the time I thought, boy, that looks good. That feels good. You got yourself out of trouble, right? But when I learned that she had died after surgery, I saw it differently. I saw it from her point of view. For whatever reason, she felt she was in emotional turmoil. She was stuck in a situation that she didn't like. And this was her way out. It was fast. It was traumatic, yes. For everybody, for me. I still remember this. It was very traumatic for me because I didn't understand at the time. I didn't understand that it was the animal's choice to be here or not be here. And she chose to go. No matter if she had had the surgery or not, she would have gone. And this was the fastest, easiest way for her to go. Now, that's probably more than I wanted to tell you or intended to tell you. In fact, it wasn't even on my radar to tell you in this particular webinar tonight, but it felt important. And I'm hoping that in understanding a little bit about the health crisis and the healing crisis, that really is a very difficult distinction, that we have to understand it's always the animal's choice. We'll talk more about this next week, working with animals and the animal's choice. And for now, I'd like to open it up for questions and give you a moment to ask any questions while this is still recording, and later on I'll turn the recording off. Do you have any questions for me? Okay, then I will turn off the recording, and thank you very much. Oh, by the way, this is my Ginger I showed you last time. She's the only one on my street that I know of who had hemangiosarcoma and lived. She died on her own terms, with no cancer, with no arthritis, at the age of nearly 14. She would have been 14 the following month. So healing is possible. We were there at the beach. She was enjoying the sunny day. And I want to ask you, where will your path lead you? Will it lead you on a journey where you will begin to work with animals? And in working with animals, you have a few more tools now that I hope you can use. Of course, the best way to reach me is through my website, secondnaturehealing.com, or my animal website, naturalpethealthalternatives.com. You can also email me, rosemary@secondnaturehealing.com. This is the Healer's Journey webinar, and if you are not on my list, go ahead to secondnaturehealing.com/webinar to get on my list, and you will have all of these recordings sent directly to your inbox. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your time. Have a good night.